That said, this MOU appears to be, just from the text, a disaster that does not achieve any of the actual...
Yeah. Notice that the MOU didn't say crime should be illegal. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, he's very, very upset. And he's not the only person, right? There are obviously other people who are on the opposing side, supposedly, of the ideological spectrum that are going on MS Now, formerly known as MSNBC, and also railing against this deal. Here is MSNBC in full-blown meltdown over the Iran deal, okay? Freaking the out. Like I said, a lot of people are going to show where their allegiances are. The word repentance is misused and misinterpreted by Christian nationalists. Okay, I don't care.
Kind of settlement other than...
Here is a never Trump Republican who's freaking out over Trump restraining Israel or even potentially demanding restraint from Israel. If you only care about Israel's Greater Israel Project, its expansionist project, of course you're going to be very frustrated that Donald Trump is actually telling Israel for the first time ever in the last 3 years, you can't do this anymore.
The Iranians got what they wanted, the Americans didn't, and that's where we're going from here.
And then, Hagar, what does that mean for the Lebanese?
Yeah, it's a disaster, actually, in so many ways. So Tom mentioned here.
It's a disaster. It's a disaster for the Lebanese that Israel can't kill them. Okay? This is a disaster for the Lebanese. If Israel can't kill more Lebanese children, then how can Lebanon be free? If Israel doesn't take over more Lebanese territory, violate Lebanese sovereignty, how can the Lebanese feel free? Yes, this is correct, by the way. Ryan Grimm has a very good take on this. By humiliating Netanyahu, Trump is very clearly redirecting humiliation that otherwise would be Trump's onto him. Never underestimate Trump's ability to dodge responsibility, a true master at work. It's extra smart because the teeth gnashing from the pro-Israel camp will be so deafening and relentless and absurd, it'll drown everything else out. And the majority of the planet, livid at Netanyahu for talking Trump into this, is happy to pile on. That's literally the point here. Donald Trump is abdicating his own personal responsibility after being goaded into waging this war against Iran and losing this war. He's abdicating his own personal responsibility in the matter and offloading it to Israel. And Israel is obviously willing to be the piñata in this circumstance. Its loudest advocates are also willing to be the people who cry the hardest because it's sincere. They are actually mad because they're used to getting everything that they want. Do you understand? They're used to getting everything they want. And their envoys in the Western world, people who obviously place the interests of Israel over the interests of America, over the interests of Americans, will also chirp just the same. This is a unique opportunity to openly point to people who are Israel first. Obviously, there's been plenty of other opportunities, but this is so clear. This is where you can even get MAGA on board because they love Donald Trump. They only like Israel because Donald Trump loves Israel. Okay, maybe some of them also have some kind of theological justification for demanding Israel's endless expansions. Sure, you know, the white evangelical Protestants who believe this will trigger the rapture. But ultimately, plenty of MAGA only care about Israel because their beautiful president, their cult leader cares about Israel. So now the cult leader doesn't care about Israel as much, at least in the way that he's communicating. Now you can actually see the cracks. Now you can actually drive a wedge between those who've been pro-Israel thus far. Anyone from this moment on that turns around, and talks about how Donald Trump is failing Israel will reveal themselves to care only about the interests of Israel and does not care about the interests of America or Americans. You cannot justify further incursions, further expansion in this moment when Trump is very clearly trying to manage this retreat. This person is going to try and say It's actually beneficial for the Lebanese population if Israel keeps murdering the Lebanese children.
That the Israelis are now being held back. And it sounds, a lot of people, it sounds like a ceasefire would be a good thing, right? Normally that sounds like something you'd want in Lebanon or anywhere. But the fact is that if we focus on Lebanon specifically, it's not there's no deal. Everybody was told to stop shooting, to put their arms down. We've now told one of our most important allies in the world that we don't want them defending themselves. The strike that Trump condemned over the weekend was a strike that was after a terrorist, a Hezbollah terrorist, wanted by the United States for having killed 5 Americans, kidnapped and killed 5 Americans, Mohammed Daktouk. And here we are telling our ally that strike should have never happened because the Iranian regime gets shaky about it, because they're the ones suddenly that have the strength to negotiate from a position of strength. In Lebanon specifically, when you have a ceasefire that doesn't detail how Hezbollah is going to get disarmed, who's doing the disarmament, what happens with Israel, what are the terms of their withdrawal, what's the relationship between the Lebanese and Israeli militaries, what is the role of the U.S. military, it's a disaster because it emboldens Hezbollah to go out there. And by the way, they already are going out there saying, you see, it's the Iranians that...
Guys, you have to understand, this is not Fox News. This is MSNBC. Now known as MS Now. This is what I mean when I say there is a bipartisan propaganda effort to greatly overemphasize Israel's importance in the region and place Israel's interests above the interests of Americans. Like, this is happening on the liberal side. This is supposed to be the furthest left mainstream media outlet. There are some wonderful voices on MS Now as well, some that I like quite a bit, you know. Chris Hayes comes to mind. But then there's also this. This is what I mean when I say it's uniparty. This is not the Ellisons purchasing MS Now. MS Now is not purchased by the Ellisons.
Brought us peace. It's us who are bringing you peace. No one in Lebanon believes it, but now they're going to the extent of threatening coups against the government, saying that the Lebanese government that did everything it could to separate itself from the Iranian regime, to pursue...
Yeah. This is the problem with MS Now hiring a lot of never-Trump Republicans, former anti-Trump Republicans. A lot of former anti-Trump Republicans were NATO Atlanticists themselves and thought that Trump would be too volatile and too dangerous to American imperial hegemony, which I guess they weren't technically wrong on. But in moments like this, they find themselves directly at odds with the base that they're trying to propagandize to. This causes more enmity. This causes MS Now to lose even more relevance and more credibility.
Peace talks because they know it's in their national security interest to say, you know what? This government doesn't represent us, and we don't want any kind of peace talks with Israel.
Yeah, the MSNBC female guest is saying the MOU is horrible for the Lebanese is named Hagar Shamali, her specialty being a think tank fellow at the Atlantic Council and a former Obama comms and NatSec staffer, also runs a terrible political satire channel on YouTube. First, they heard from the Never Trump Republican. Then they heard from a NATO Atlanticist. Both of them are united on let Israel kill more Lebanese people. This is good for Lebanon. This is good for America. Israel's our most important ally. Why are they saying this? Why are they saying this? Well, because they want to punish Trump. They want this deal to not go through because their primary interest is the continuation of the greater Israeli project. The mainstream freakout over the bad deal misses the crucial point. It was a bad war, which the U.S. and Israel decisively lost. The so-called bad deal is a byproduct of that loss. You have to reckon with the fact that it was a bad war and a lost war, and your analysis is garbage. Yes, of course it was a bad war, this guy says. Or rather, it was a war that Israel was decisively winning until General Bone Spurs insisted on joining and then got bored and screwed it up like he screws everything. He should have let Israel fight on their own without holding them back. There is no world. This is utter fantasy, okay? There is no world where Israel gets to fight these wars on its own. Israel's never fought a war without unlimited Western support. It's bullshit, as I've stressed this over and over again. When Israeli fighter jets, F-35 or F-22 fighter jets, are flying from Israeli airfields, they are fueled by American jet fuel. Those fighter jets are American fighter jets. Sure, they might have Israeli operating software in them, which is unique to Israel and Israel alone. No other country gets to have this kind of extra autonomy in this process. But those Israeli fighter jets are dumping, those are actually American fighter jets, and they're dumping American unguided and guided munitions. And in the process of flying sorry, they don't have F-22s. Only America has F-22s until they merge their military. And then they'll have F-22s as well. Apologies. When they're dumping munitions on Tehran, those are American munitions, okay? Those are American unguided bombs. Those are American guided munitions that we panic shipped over to Israel. In the process of flying from Tel Aviv to Tehran, because that journey is too long for fighter jets to commit to on one tank, they get refueled by American Stratotankers. Their targets that they identify are targets that they've identified with American intelligence. There is no point where Israel can wage a single war without American go-ahead and without American munitions, without American jet fuel, and without American military hardware. So when people say, "Oh, let Israel commit these war crimes unrestrained," why are you actually impeding on Israel's ability to defend itself? What many people fail to comprehend is Israel can't do a single violent act without America's go-ahead, okay? It can't. Israel is not a sovereign country in that regard. Israel is not an autonomous country in that regard. Israel has only been able to carve out that sovereignty, that fake sovereignty, with an unbelievably sophisticated influence peddling operation in the Western world. Influence peddling operation that it's gotten the bandwidth to commit to because of its importance as an unsinkable aircraft carrier and an important and reliable Cold War ally during the Cold War. That's the reason why Israel has to dump millions, if not billions of dollars into Hasbara. That's the reason why Israel has to constantly try to stamp out its prominent critics in the Western world. Because if this tide turns, as it has already, okay, if this tide turns and American elected officials start turning on Israel because they say enough is enough, then Israel doesn't get to do any of the violent, belligerent things that it does. So I laugh whenever people say, "Oh, let Israel fight its own battles." Jeet here responds, "How exactly would Israel alone win a war that Israel and USA working together lost? That makes no sense. If Israel were capable of fighting alone, they would have. There's a reason why Netanyahu has been pushing U.S. presidents to fight this war for 40 years. Dude, if we could get a market deal with Iran, Israel literally has no bearing or importance to us whatsoever." No, there's a level of racism at play here. I don't think Americans will ever fully trust Iran, right? There's Orientalism at play here. It's the same reason why Europeans don't fully trust China. They'll try to secure better economic relationships with China, but they'll never fully commit to being in the sphere of influence of China. They don't even commit to leveraging a better relationship with China against the United States of America. So there is a level of Orientalism at play. And that's the same reason why America will never trust Turkey or Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates or Qatar, even though these countries are much more valuable militarily, Turkey is, or much more valuable because they are resource-rich nations, Saudi Arabia and the rest of the GCC, and also have billions of dollars that they dump in the direction of American initiatives, sometimes directly giving those billions of dollars to Jared Kushner or Donald Trump. And yet, America still obviously places a higher emphasis on protecting Israel and abiding by Israel's wishes, right? There's a reason for that.
Israel.
In any case, again, after all the talking point of Israel being the Middle East's greatest beacon of democracy was always rhetoric, Israel knows that if Middle Eastern countries were more democratic, they would be more antagonistic to Israel. Israeli foreign policy requires neighborly authoritarianism, which is true, yes. It's extremely disturbing that hardcore pro-Israel commentators seem to overwhelmingly lament that there isn't a brutal Sunni minority regime suppressing the Shia majority in Iraq and a brutal Alawite minority regime suppressing the Sunni majority in Syria. Israel does not care about democracy. Israel's an apartheid state. It's not a democratic process. You can't have a democratic apartheid state. You can't democratically organize around doing a genocide to the indigenous population. Democracy doesn't mean anything at that point, right? This is a crucial point, and the reason why all Western rhetoric about democracy promotion rings so false. And in spite of the $100 billion that we burned here in the last 100 days, probably even more than $100 billion, maybe $200 billion, right? The $100 billion is the conservative estimate. Billions of dollars of radar installations that are gone and probably will never be replaced. A destruction of American force projection capabilities, complete collapse of America's force projection capabilities. Other allies far away from this region, in the Asian theater, for example, are recalculating their allegiance to the United States of America. We blew all of that at the behest of Israel. Now, I don't personally think this is a bad thing. I know that this was an inevitability. I've been saying this for years, that America is declining as an empire. It's an empire in decline. And we must manage that decline, right? This was the heart of the speech that I delivered at Yale Union. Donald Trump is the accelerant, because Donald Trump leaned into Israeli nonsense. He listened to Benjamin Netanyahu. He didn't listen to his generals. He didn't listen to his own intelligence community. He listened to Benjamin Netanyahu. He was so high off of what he thought was a major victory in Venezuela, and he thought he could recreate it. But to give him credit, even though this is a classic Trump moment, he something up, he ruins it, he molests the money, and then he turns around and stops the money molestation, and we're supposed to sit there and celebrate this decision. But to give him credit, he at least was not committed to full-blown invasion, a complete destruction, a complete cratering of American force projection capabilities, and maybe the American domestic economy as well. But let's hear from another Israel firster and what he had to say.
Israel's enemies are our enemies. I often say the reason they hate Israel is because Israel is small and Israel is close to where they are. And so I believe standing with Israel stands with a country that largely shares the same values that we do. Does that mean I think we should put the interests of America over Israel? No, but I haven't seen an instance where
Did you say,
that
does
is
that
the
mean
case.
we should put the interest of America over Israel? No?
No, does that mean we should put the interest of Israel over America?
Okay, I want to make sure.
All right, if I misspoke.
Got him. We got him, boys. A gut punch to peace through strength, pablum.
You know.
Yeah. Trump leaves the door open to Iran enriching. Maybe the only good thing to come from this disastrous war with Iran is Trump nuking the hawkish FDD worldview and suggestion that you can bomb your way to peace. Yeah, I don't think we're going to stop doing that. I think America is belligerent, and it's going to get even more belligerent until we forcibly excise the influence of Israel from our foreign policy vehicle, from our domestic policy. This is not going to change. It's going to come back. Look at what AIPAC is doing, subverting democracy actively. Okay? That's it. Here is Trump also talking about Iranian nuclear enrichment.
We've been pretty tough on that. You know, it is a little hard, though, when you say that somebody wants it, other people have it, other adjoining states have it, and you're not letting them have it for purposes of electricity and things like that. It's always a little tough. You have to use a little common sense, please.
Yeah, we'll let them have a little bit of nuclear dust. Arnaud says, this video probably more than any other illustrates the extent to which Israel's regional strategy has resulted in strategic defeat. They had one big enemy, Iran, and one big friend, the U.S. And these two are now negotiating a deal while Israel is being told it's an inconvenience that should be replaced by a former al-Qaeda commander because he's more humane and kills less civilians. If that's not a strategic defeat, I don't know what is. President Trump publicly rebukes Israel over its war against Hezbollah. Israel's fighting Hezbollah too long and too many people are being killed. Trump said he opposed strikes that destroy apartment buildings filled with civilians and revealed he urged Israel to let Syria take the lead against Hezbollah instead. If Israel can't do the job without killing everyone else, he'll do the job. Syria will do the job. I mean, that part of the equation is also still very stupid, right? Someone's got to kill these Shia Muslims in Lebanon is not exactly a long-standing commitment to peace and stability in the region. Turning around and being like, we got to get Jolani to do it is insane.
So
anyway, this is another key moment from his speech, specifically about Iran's ballistic munitions capabilities and any kind of like drawback on Iran's ballistic missiles program. It's not going to happen. I told you this already. It was a silly red line that was never going to be enforced. And I think it was Israel that demanded the enforcement of this red line in an effort to put forth poison pill provisions in this memorandum of understanding or any kind of ceasefire commitment that they knew Iran would never say yes to, because no sovereign country on the planet is going to say yes to that. Why would they say yes to that? It's ridiculous.
So we'll be working on a parallel effort with the Gulf nations to address non-nuclear issues such as the conventional ballistic missiles, which we'll be talking about, and support. I mean, they have to have some because other people have some. You got to have some.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. He's like, listen, I'm Shia Muslim. I am Shia Musliman. I've seen the light of Allah and have realized that I have always been Shia. MashaAllah, I have reverted. Incredible. Incredible. I mean, he was always stupid to begin with. Look at Marco Rubio in the backdrop going, oh man, he's just saying they can have ballistic missiles. Not great.
You shouldn't give them.
Even he's not smirking no more. Howard Budlick usually smirks in the background like, hey, yeah.
And I have guys, I like some of these guys, but I don't think they're smart. Sir, you shouldn't let them have any missile. I said, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to let Saudi Arabia have missiles, but they can't have them? Yes, sir. It doesn't work that way, you know? It doesn't work.
Oh, I hate this pedophile, but let me tell you something, okay? Only this pedophile gets to say this, okay? When I say it, everybody yells at me, but it's true. So I hope now some of these dumb in the cult can be like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, only Nixon gets to go to China. Straight up. Only Trump gets to go, yeah, of course they're going to have ballistic missiles. What are we talking about? It's a sovereign country. What are you going to, would you be down to restrict our own defensive capabilities? No. Yeah, no shit. Marco Rubio with the 1,000-yard stare, wondering how long is it going to take? In this news conference, Trump said that he has a hard time telling Iran that they can't have ballistic missiles because Saudi Arabia has them. And it's hard to tell Iran that they can't have a civilian nuclear program because others have it. He's right. He's right. It's so stupid. It's such a stupid goal to try and advance. And we've only seemingly advanced this goal because we're the United States of America, and we've told ourselves that we get to tell other countries what they can and can't do. Straight up. For far too long, we have gotten to dictate, we have decided what other countries can and can't do. Okay? And now that time is changing because Iran fought for its own sovereignty and won. Check logs after spiel. JD Pondon supports Hasanabi doctrine. I mean, this is the type of truth that Donald Trump would never reveal if Iran hadn't won this war, okay? If Iran had not won this battle, Donald Trump is not going to be like, yeah, they can't have, they get to have defensive munition capabilities, ballistic missile capabilities because they're a sovereign nation. They fought, they won, okay? They fought for their sovereignty. They won their sovereignty. I can't even talk. They fought for their sovereignty and they won their sovereignty. So now, of course, they get to keep their missile program, you know?
Work that way. And missiles aren't the problem. Missiles are, they hurt a little location, but they don't blow up the planet. So we'll be working on a parallel effort with the Gulf nations to address non-nuclear issues such as the conventional ballistic missiles, which we'll be talking about, and support. I mean,
they don't want that smoke. Launches of production are in the mountains. Matthew says the Trump supporters are melting down over this deal. They're attacking him now. President Trump opened the nuclear enrichment for Iran. Wait, this is not the link. This is not the right link that you're sending me. I don't think, I mean, this will be an important test. This will be an important test in the resilience of Trump's cult. Will this actually break the Trump cult apart? Or will they, for the first time ever, actually accidentally find themselves on the right side of an issue? Because Trump is now on the right side of an issue. Because this is categorically very Trump. He did this with the Ansar Allah movement. And I remember, if you remember, I talked about this, right? Like, Trump, to give him credit in all of this madness, is the type of guy who's not ideologically bound by anything. He's just invested in his own personal goals, right? He is unbelievably self-interested. And as someone who's unbelievably self-interested, an ideological man in this circumstance would probably commit to going up the escalation ladder. Trump is a selfish man. Trump is a selfish man who has thrown his closest allies under the bus when push comes to shove. Right now, that ally being shoved under the Iranian bus is the pro-Israel lobby. So we shall see. But it's incredible to watch so many Israel firsters crash the out. I mean, I already covered this, but yeah, Ben Shapiro saying the MOU is a disaster, right? At least some of his most servile little piggies, little piggies are smart enough, like Lindsey Graham, to stand on this delicate tightrope that they've found themselves on in the past. Obviously, Lindsey Graham loves war. He nuts off to it. That's the only thing he cares about. But he also knows that he has to be Trump's inside man. That's the reason why he is committed to this weird statement where he's like, well, you know, I haven't seen the full details of the MOU, but it seems to be fine. It seems to be all right. I trust Trump. You know, he's realized that he has to stand on one side, and that's the Trump side. Whereas there are others who are not bound by that same interest, who are bound by a much higher priority. Ben Shapiro's highest priority is Israel. We've known this already. We've talked about this already over and over again. As a matter of fact, Ben Shapiro is the one guy that most people don't even try to cry and say, I'm being anti-Semitic when I say he's Israel first. It's actually interesting. He is so transparently Israel first that even other people that normally would say, dude, you're just saying a Jewish man has dual loyalty. What the they don't even do that for Ben. They'll do that for Jake Auchincloss. They'll do that for others, but they won't do that for Randy Fine, and they won't do that for Ben Shapiro. Interesting. There's a couple guys out there in the Israel First crowd that even the other pro-Israel mouthpieces and advocacy organizations won't claim you're being anti-Semitic if you just openly call out their highest priority and their highest loyalty being to Israel. Mark Levin's another one. Randy Fine's another one. Ben Shapiro's another one, right? It's very funny. And it's because it's just so transparent. Like, he just does not give a shit. He does not give a single shred of a shit about what's going on in America. He's just like, this is my highest priority. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at what he's saying.
That Mohammed Khalibaf, who will apparently on Friday be literally in a photo op with the Vice President of the United States. I cannot express to you how stomach-turning that is. I don't care who the Vice President is. I don't care who the President is. Leaders of the United States of America in a photo op with a mass murdering terrorist supporter like Mohammed Khalibaf shaking hands 6 months after he blew away 42,000 innocent people in the streets, and weeks after his administration was firing missiles at literally all of our allies in the region and continues to support every terrorist group in the region and is currently continuing to control the strait. Like right now, it is not fully open for business unless the Iranians have, quote unquote, decided it is. The idea here is that somehow this administration and the deal that has been cut weakens Hezbollah. I'm not seeing it so much. I'm not seeing it. Maybe it's there. Again, we haven't seen the MOU for the 1,000th time. We haven't seen the MOU. That's not because of me. I would like to see the MOU. I think you would like to see the MOU. Hell,
42,000? Dude, it's so funny. Laura Loomer yesterday or 2 days ago said 100,000. Yeah. The IRGC has killed 1 billion Iranians. That's right. They have a new type of weapon that only kills its own civilians. It doesn't harm any of the buildings. It doesn't disrupt regular business. It just kills Iranian civilians, and they've killed them by the billions. We are on track to becoming an Islamic country. Sad to see. Savor these hilarious meltdowns while they last. It's been a rotten year, and there will surely be more misery to come, says Mark Ames. He's right. I am savoring it, though. I mean, it turns out, you know how these guys love talking about like liberal tears? It turns out Zionist tears are so delicious because pro-Israel people get everything they want all the time, and they're so goddamn spoiled. They're so arrogant. They're so entitled. So when things don't go the way they want it to, for once, their meltdown is hilarious. Of course, my senator, Adam Schiff, is obviously outflanking the Trump administration from the right here. Let's finish the Ben Shapiro tiers, and then we'll get to Adam Schiff, also known as Adam Shit.
I think we'd all like to see the MOU. If Israel is not a party to the actual talks, which they are not, they have not been included in the talks. If Israel is not a signatory to the agreement, which they are not, how in the world could you tie Israel's hands when it comes to self-defense in Lebanon while Hezbollah is firing rockets and drones over the border at Israeli citizens? Shall we say that this is not a popular MOU, from what I understand, in Israel? And again, Israel, they were flying jets alongside American jets during this whole operation. Iran was firing at American soldiers during this whole operation. So playing halvesies is a bit strange. If we release funds, or if we tell our Arab Gulf state allies to release funds to Iran, it doesn't have to be American taxpayer dollars. That is us releasing money to Iran. If you unfreeze money to a terrorist group, that is in fact money going to a terrorist group. It does not have to come from American. That's sleight of hand. It's rhetorical sleight of hand. I was not under the impression that you and I would be paying taxpayer dollars to go straight to Iran. But if we press people to release money to a terror state in order for them to continue to toll the strait and to exert control whenever they feel threatened, or for them to rebuild their ballistic missile and nuclear capacities, that is a gigantic mistake. To go back to the 5 standards of a good deal versus a bad deal would look like continued nuclear development. A bad deal would look like continued ballistic missile development. A bad deal would look like funding of terrorism abroad continuing. A bad deal would look like continued Iranian control over the strait and tolling of the strait. And a bad deal would look like more funding going into Iran.
Hold on, I have to do something real quick. Some scheduling things. Apologies. I have to make some decisions on when to travel potentially to New York. New York again. Yes, I'm sexting. I'm about to interview Adam Smith. Oh, I know him. Who's the highest ranking Democrat and serves as the ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee. Is there anything you think I should ask him or push him on? Yes. Merger of the Israeli military for sure. Definitely hit that subject. And then also ask like what his take is on the Trump MOU. And if he hits like a right wing, if he outflanks the Trump administration from the right, ask him why he's doing that. This is a bad war that Trump obviously started, and there's an alternative out there with the JCPOA that the Obama administration had accomplished. Isn't it better to isn't it better to you know, isn't it better to like end the hemorrhaging here? I mean, America's force projection capabilities have been diminished, have been destroyed. Shouldn't we reconsider our foreign policy as it pertains to you know, our foreign policy and the guidance that we get from Israel? Brother, we all know Adam Smith. He's the father of neoliberalism and its history of globalization. First of all, Adam Smith would be woke in comparison to what neoliberalism looks like. He's not, I wouldn't say he's the father of neoliberalism. Okay, you're wrong. That is not an appropriate interpretation of his work at all. I mean, his work was also profoundly important for Marx as well. The one time I don't write joke. Okay. Yeah. Adam Smith looks like a Maoist when he talks about rent-seeking behavior from landlords. Okay. Adam Smith is basically a Maoist. Anyway. Yeah. Neoliberalism is a bastardization of Adam Smith. Marxism is a continuation, the appropriate evolution of Adam Smith's work, ironically enough. All right. But yeah, no, that's a good one. Milton Friedman makes Adam Smith look woke. Adam Smith is woke. He's literally woke in comparison to neoliberals, 100%. I still find something shocking almost every time I read Adam Smith, like the part where he says, oh, by the way, capitalism is obviously coercive against workers. It is not, however, difficult to foresee which of the two parties must, upon all ordinary... Yeah, ask a liberal about Adam Smith's opinion on rent-seeking behavior and landlords, okay? They will literally stare at you like, what are you talking about? Straight up. That motherfucker hated landlords, bro. It's not, however, difficult to foresee which of the two parties must, upon all ordinary occasions, have the advantage in this dispute and force the other into a compliance with their terms. The masters, being fewer in number, can combine much more easily, and the law, besides, authorizes or at least does not prohibit their combinations, while it prohibits those of the workmen. The law favors the side of capital owners over the side of the workers. Woke! Yes, capitalism was a historically progressive force during the time of Adam Smith, at least according to the Marxist view of history. It is, and it was, and it's true. That's why Marxism is seen as an evolution off of Adam Smith's work as well. Yeah, what are the common wages of labor? Depends everywhere upon the contract usually made between those two parties whose interests are by no means the same. The workmen desire to get as much, the masters to give as little as possible. The former are disposed to combine in order to raise, the latter in order to lower the wages of labor. We rarely hear, as has been said, of the combinations of masters, though frequently of those of workmen. But whoever imagines upon this account that masters rarely combine is as ignorant of the world as of the subject. Masters are always and everywhere in a sort of tacit but constant and uniform combination. Not to raise the wages of labor above their actual rate. To violate this combination is everywhere a most unpopular action and a sort of reproach to a master among his neighbors and equals. If Kamala spoke like this, people would have said she's Marx reincarnate. Guys, I don't know how to explain this to you. That is literally also Marxist. The master-slave dynamic, okay, is literally dialectics. It is Marx's. He said the exact same thing. Marx was a continuation of Adam Smith's work. This is Marxism 101. That literal text is identical to Marx's interpretation because Karl Marx's interpretation. Yes, master slave is Hegel. Yes, I know. Oh my God. I know, chatter. The master slave dynamic is Hegelian, which is also, again, profoundly important for Marxist interpretation. What do you think the class contradiction, what do you think the friction between the classes is? I said it is a dialectic. It's dialectical thinking. In any case, a lot of people don't realize that, like, there is not a lot of moralizing in Das Kapital. It's just a straightforward description of how capitalism works, the moral values that we that we add on to this description of how capitalism works comes from the fact that we as human beings kind of look at that dynamic and think, well, this is a little f***ed up, right? Yes, the moralization comes from our natural response to a system that is very clearly designed. Yeah, it's not even prescriptive in general. No, it's not. It's just descriptive. It's pure descriptive text. Most people have never read Das Kapital. And that's the reason why they endlessly pontificate on a text that they never read. And it's understandable. It's, not the easiest read. Okay? But that is unironically the reason why people fail to comprehend it. That's why so many people go, wow, I don't understand. Like you're applying dialectical thinking to modern events and your interpretation of world events, and you come across like you come across as prophetic. It's not prophetic. It's just I'm looking at the system in its grand design. This is why it's also very important to read. It's very important to read Das Kapital. It's very important to read Marxist thinkers. There's a reason why the meme of like Marx never wrote about this is stupid, because Marx definitely wrote about it. The thing that you think he did not write about, he certainly did. Anyway, Senator Adam Schiff. Let's talk about that now. Outflanking Trump from the right, as expected. Again, major AIPAC guy, $5.6 million, a lapdog for Israel. Wow, Iran gets sanctions relief, the release of frozen funds, the ability to export oil, and a $300 billion reconstruction fund. The U.S. gets a reiteration of vague promise of Iran won't develop a nuke. Hard to imagine a more thorough capitulation. Now, people will read this as him trying to shit on Trump. Okay? But if you were actually invested in stability, you wouldn't be shitting on Trump on this. Or there's a better way to shit on Trump on this issue, but that requires you to shit on Israel. Okay? And these guys don't want to do that. That's the problem. You could literally be like, Trump, you are so stupid that every single Democrat and even previous Republican leaders did not listen to Benjamin Netanyahu when he begged them or demanded them to go and strike Iran. This was the reason. You did it. Now this is your failure. I'm glad that you're finally trying to negotiate this settlement, but ultimately, that's the failure. The failure is that Trump was goaded into taking action by Israel, but these guys don't want to say it. Ironically enough, because Donald Trump doesn't ever like to take responsibility, I mean, he's allergic to taking responsibility, he is moving the conversation over to Israel's direction, but these idiots don't see Trump doing that. Love to criticize Iran hawks while embracing all of their central premises, namely that Iran is ontologically evil and sinister. This truly is the Super Bowl for guys who were president of their college debate club who believe in nothing beyond vapid, by your logic, gotchaism. Chris Murphy, all the Iran hawks said that the way to get rid of Iran's hardline regime nuclear program, missiles, and support for terrorism was to go to war with Iran. We went to war with Iran, and the hardline regime nuclear program and missiles and terrorism aid are all still there. Wow, Iran is more hardline than ever and is seeking nukes and supporting a sprawling network of terrorism. Someone should do something about those really evil people with whom Democrats ostensibly support a peace settlement. This just like how Murphy went hard right on immigration to own the Republicans, and in doing so promoted all their key premises. Does Murphy believe in anything? Does he have any first principles or critiques of any of the underlying logics at work? This is one of my biggest issues with the Democrats. The Democrats love pivoting to the right. And when they do this, they don't actually hit Donald Trump. They don't actually criticize Donald Trump. They legitimize the underlying premise of the entire Republican movement. Okay? When you turn around and go, Taco Trump, you chickened out, you pussied out, you don't actually end up winning that argument. You just legitimized why he did that thing in the first place. And let me tell you, if sanctions relief has to go through Congress, you will see a battle unlike ever before, where all of Israel's lapdogs in Congress from the Democratic Party and the Republican Party will actively try to piece up the sanctions relief to the best of their goddamn ability. Okay? You can shit on Trump by saying this is a worse deal than we could have gotten otherwise had the U.S. and Israel not gone to war. It's worse for the U.S. than the JCPOA was. And it's Trump's fault. We have to accept this deal, but we do have to accept it at the end of the day for peace. Like Ro Khanna said, yes, Ro Khanna has been the almost singular force in Congress that has actually said the right things here. Okay? It's totally ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous to be like, yeah, Trump is a idiot. Like, you shouldn't have gone to war with Iran, even though they're obviously the big bad. They're the ultimate villain. They're the enemy. They're the enemy. They're the biggest enemy that we've ever seen. Okay, then Trump was doing something just. Trump was doing something honorable. Trump was doing something right. He just failed to finish the task. So what should Trump do next? Go back to war? Is that the argument? Because whether you recognize it or not, that is the argument that you are laying down. When you say, and we did this, we played this song and dance with Venezuela. If you recall, I was very angry at the way that Democrats talked about Venezuela, where they would be like, Maduro is an authoritarian monster who's killed 17 million Venezuelans on a daily basis. He's constantly murdering Venezuelans for fun. He's drinking their blood. But we should follow international law, and Trump didn't. The is that? Okay, then yeah, it's awesome that Trump went beast mode. You know, who is going to hear you legitimize why Trump did this illegal act and think it's bad that Trump did this illegal act when you're saying it's technically good that he did it? You just think that the process was violated. Holy shit. Have you submitted your application to Streamer University? That's a real question. No, I have not. Streamer University, sponsored by Nike, sponsored Kai Cenat, is, I don't think, going to give me an opportunity to educate streamers on politics, on geopolitical conflict around the world. I don't think they're gonna let me be a professor at Streamer University, where I talk to a bunch of 18-year-olds about how Israel sucks and how American militarism must end. That would be awesome, though. I have jokingly talked about it, but like crisis PR, definitely something in my wheelhouse. What to do when the entire world is seemingly out to get you. I have a lot of experience in this field, and I could teach a lot of streamers what to do in this process, except now that I've said this, someone will clip this out and be like, Hasan wants to be on Streamer University. It is not going to, and he's complaining that he's never going to be on Streamer University. And then they'll try to make a drama cycle off of this as well. However, yes, this is something that I'm a tenured professor in. Poli-Sci 101 with Dr. Jihad. Anyway, you'd be great at teaching crisis control? Yes. Crisis management. I mean, Trump is great at crisis management. Ironically enough, he just boulders his way through it. He kind of is the method, low key. Phantom is teaching that course, and he apparently has a PhD in international relations. I mean, Phantom spends a decent amount of time in this community. Okay, so he could teach that course, I think. Don't you dare disrespect Phantom. He could teach taxes 101 with Phantom. Anyway, where were we? Yeah. So David Austin Walsh says, sips coffee. Well, at least the Iran deal pretty conclusively demonstrates that Israelis do not, in fact, control U.S. foreign policy. Ho, ho, ho. Spoke too soon. Matthew Petty says, actually, the next 60 days are going to be an exquisite lesson in exactly what levers of power the Israeli government does have in Washington. Anyone who thinks that any government has godlike powers is an idiot, but Israeli leaders clearly have ways to pressure American counterparts when they don't get what they want. And they're signaling very loudly that they're about to do exactly that. Will they succeed? Who knows? What I can tell you is that we're going to see high drama that is nothing like any other foreign policy debate